So recently, I just had an issue where my dryer stopped working and started to display this 88 code. This is a Maytag Neptune Dryer. The model is MDE 5500 AYW. I received this dryer about 17 years ago, so it has worked spectacularly since till today. After reading several forums, most of them state that there's actually an issue with the control board. So what I'll do is I'll take you through the process of how I'm going to try to fix this problem. So the first thing you'll want to do is unplug the unit. Then you'll want to take off the back panel so that you can get access to the control unit. The back panel is accessed by removing this silver plate on the back side. There are 4 screws on the top, Phillips head screws, and then there are 2 other screws, one here and here, which I'm just going to use a socket wrench to remove. With the plate removed, what you'll notice is that taped on the inside, there's actually a wiring diagram, which I found very handy, that they included this with the product, because I wasn't able to find any description about how to repair this dryer. But if you were to open up these instructions, they actually have information on troubleshooting any diagnostic codes that are reported by the control unit. Since this control unit was showing an 8.8, it appears that there's actually an issue with just the control unit. There's some short circuit or something is wrong with the control unit. The diagnosis process was not working whatsoever. So let's investigate what's going on with the control unit. With the top panel off, the way you can remove the control board from the top panel is just take off these 4 screws. It's a good idea at this point to take a photo of the circuit board so that you'll know how, once you've disconnected all of these wires, that you'll know how to reconnect them again after you've made the fix. Okay, I've removed the 4 screws that were attaching the circuit board to the top panel, and all you need to do now is just remove this ribbon cable to actually remove the entire circuit board from the top panel. So I'll just do that now. Just pull that off, very easy. And then you can slide out the circuit board from here. What I've noticed is, after reading many of the forums that talk about this particular problem, it looks like this capacitor is damaged. And you can actually see there's actually a slight bump on the very top of it. This is an electrolytic capacitor, and there's actually some of the electrolytic compound that's coming out of the capacitor. The one that's on the left-hand side, you can actually see the top of it's completely flat still, so there's no issue with that particular capacitor. So I'm going to put a new capacitor in, and this one's not a push type, so we'll have to resolder this connection. So I'll remove all of these cables, and we'll go ahead and make that fix. Oh, and remember, please take a photo of the way all the connections are made to the circuit board so that you can reattach the proper wire to the proper port. So now I've completely disconnected the circuit board from the dryer, and we can get a much better view of what's going on with this capacitor. As you can see, some of this yellowish compound here, this appears to be the electrolytic material that's coming out of the capacitor. So it appears to me that if we can replace this capacitor, we should be able to correct the problem. The other capacitors on this board, this one here and this one here, do not appear to have any issues. These resistors do have some scorching, but I'm going to just leave them as they are based upon the forums that I've read. I don't think there's an issue with these, but as far as I can tell, it's just this capacitor, so we're just going to replace that. So I've actually watched quite a number of YouTube videos on how to replace this capacitor. This will be my first time actually attempting to do this. I've never actually removed a capacitor or tried to resolder one. If you're not comfortable with this process, you can purchase this entire board with this bracket online. You can't purchase it any longer from Maytag, but you can purchase it from vendors which have refurbished these products. I have seen one for $140 from a company called Swifty Appliances, and they'll send you this entire board. But if you want to try to save even more money, you can just replace this capacitor, which I found on DigiKey for about $4. So to get access to the back side of this board, you just need to remove these 6 screws on the board, which are mounted to the bracket. This one, and there's one here in the top. So after removing those 6 screws, I noticed that the back side of the board was actually quite scorched in this top corner. I'm hoping that there's actually no issues with these resistors in this top right corner. So I'm going to just replace this one capacitor and see if that takes care of the problem. Now I'm going to attempt to remove the capacitor by just gently rocking it back and forth by applying heat to these 2 connections on the back. There is a little bit of glue that's attaching the capacitor to the board. I have used the box cutter to help try to cut some of this, but it doesn't seem to want to come off. So now I'm just going to attempt to slowly rock it back and forth and see if that's enough to break it free. All right, I've removed the capacitor, but the glue is still attached, so I'm just going to try to cut the remainder of the glue from the capacitor that's attached to the board, and then I should be able to have it removed. I've been able to expand the holes where the capacitor was placed by using this safety pin. All I did was just heat up the solder holes on the front and the back side and just push the safety pin down into the hole to expand the hole. That gave me enough opening to where I can insert the capacitor. Now what you'll notice is that the capacitor has a positive and a negative terminal. There's a little plus symbol. I don't know if that shows up on the camera, but there's actually a plus symbol on this left side, which implies the negative terminal is on the right side. The capacitor itself has the negative terminal notated by this gray strip. So just ensure that you insert this pin into the right hole, which implies that this is the positive side. Just bending the pins to the left and right here just slightly so that I can ensure that there's enough pressure so that the capacitor doesn't fall out from the other side. To remove the extraneous piece, you can just use a nail clipper to cut the remaining part off. And that's that. Now I'm going to reattach everything back to the dryer and see if this now fixes the issue. Now I've reinserted the control panel back into the top part of the dryer. Now I'm going to reconnect all of the wires using the picture that I took earlier and see if it works. I have reinserted the control board back into the top panel. Now let's plug it in and see if it works. This is a good sign. Perfect. Well, with the $3 fix, if you also have a capacitor problem on your control board, you can get your dryer up and running again. If you're not comfortable with doing the soldering portion, you can always buy a new control board for around $130, $140. All right, that's it. Hopefully this video helped you out. Take care.